sort of closest to being a probability activity. It's a simple game. I'll explain to you the rules, how we play the game. I roll the dice. I'll roll the die. And whatever comes up is the number of points that you get. So for example, if I roll a 6, you get 6. If I roll a 5, you get 5, and so on. If I roll a 2, the game ends. It's the end of the game, whenever a 2 comes up. Now, here's how the probability comes into it. As the game progresses, you will be standing up. At any time during the game, you can sit down and take your points. Once you choose to sit down, you can't re-engage into that game. You're finished, but you get the points. If, however, while you are standing up and you are trying to accrue more points, if I roll a 2, you finish with 0. Now, everybody gets the first 2 rolls for free. It doesn't matter what they are. So, first roll, just happen to be a 2. But you all get that. And the second roll is a 4. Okay, so everybody, yeah, right then. Everybody is on 6. Now, if you choose to take your 6 points, and you can see along here, we're going to find out what your game total is. So if you decide right now, well, that'll do me, I'll take the 6 because I think a 2 might come up next or whatever, then you can just accept the 6, write it in now, and be done with it. Otherwise, if you wish to try and gain more points, then stand up and you roll. Okay, so everybody's in. Let's see what happens. It's a 5. So everybody is now on 11. If you think 11's enough, you can sit down and you can write in 11 for your total. Otherwise, we gamble on. Now remember, if I roll a 2, you get 0. You don't even get the original 6. Okay, so does anybody want to accept the 11? No, we're going to roll on. It's a 4. Okay, so you might be happy now to take 15 and sit down. 54. You want it? Right, write down 15. And we'll roll on. Now remember, we're doing this 4 times, so we're going to find out what you get at that point after the 4 games. So if you miss out on the first game, it's a 1.
Oh, so close. You're going to go for another one?
We're on to 16. Those who just sat down can take 16. So we've got one person on 15, one's accepted 16, and we're rolling on for everyone else. And it's another 1.
I'm not going to stop till I reach to the end.
On to 17. Sit down now if you want to sit down, otherwise we roll on. Right, put down 17. Oh.
Are you going to go all the way, John?
Right, on to 18. Anyone want to sit down on 18?
3 is good. If I use 2.
It's a 4. Total's now 22. Now I need to pick the pace up a little bit. So you just keep a record of your own now. There's no prizes or anything, by the way. So but anyone who's still standing is currently on 22. If you just sat down, you give yourself 22. Otherwise, we're rolling on.
What a guess! What a guess! Where do we write 22?
I knew.
And you're like, oh, should I do it?
Okay, next game. I'll get them ready. Here's the two rolls. So we've got a 1. And a 6. Okay, we don't need that. Just watch here again, please. This was something of a coincidence. There was absolutely no reason why the maximum totals were close. There's no reason for that. In the first series of games, the maximum total was 109, and I've recorded that here. And in this second series of games, the maximum total was 114. So the maximum score was very similar, and I've recorded that here as well. Now, there's not an enormous, certainly no obvious difference in the stem and leaf plot between the two games, especially given that it is possible to have got maximum totals that were very similar. Now, it is possible that it could have been that maybe the second time round, or even the first time round, the maximum possible could have been much greater. Could have been, but it wasn't. So having a look at the data, the first time we played, we had one more 0 than the second time round. We had a 6 in here, so there was a number of low scores there, and maybe some of the zeros, 1 or 2 of the zeros maybe turned into at least some here. A lot more in the 20s. Sort of tapered out a little bit in the middle here. It was a bit stronger over there than it was here. But then down the bottom here, the highest scores were a bit greater the second time around than the first time around. Now, I asked you the question, when did you choose to sit down? And if you didn't sit down at all, in which case you would have got 0 on both occasions, then in hindsight, when do you think it would have been a good time to sit down? Okay, what are some answers we've got for that? Yep.
Around when went through like the 20s to 30s.
Okay. Right, so any time that the scores seem to get on individual games, you mean? Yeah. Sort of got somewhere around about the 20s to 30s, you felt that was enough points. Okay, yep.
When like higher numbers like 5 and 6 kept on coming out.
Okay, so if you saw a 5 or a 6 come out, then what you chose, that'll do me, and you sat down then, yep.
The die would have rolled a 2, like it was like between 1 and 3.
Right, what do you mean?
Like if it rolled 1, 3, and 3, then it would have been a high probability that 2 would come out.
Oh, so if you saw that a 1 and a 3 had come out, then you thought that was the time. So you might have probably sat down about there on this occasion. Yep. Any other ones?
When lower numbers like 1 and 3 came, I sit down.
Okay. So that's not sitting down at the 5 and 6 time. Some people sat down when they started to see a series of low numbers. Any other? Yep.
Around 20 mark.
Around the 20 mark again. Now, about the only thing that didn't come up, which is often an explanation, is some people say, oh, I tend to wait for about 5 or 6 rolls, and then I sit down. But nobody mentioned that. Most people were talking about what was on the die, whether it's 5 or 6, 1 or 2. Some people talked about totals, 20s and 30s, but no one actually mentioned that that's often said, that I sit down after 5 or 6 rolls. Okay, now, what you would normally expect to see is that people sort of learn from their mistakes here and are probably more inclined to not take as many risks and accept the points, and therefore by accepting the points their total gets greater And we would normally see a bit of a shift and see that these points here would be probably tending to be a little bit higher. We did see some higher ones, but overall there wasn't really a great deal of difference between the two leaves on the back-to-back stem. Okay, turn it off. All right, now that's just a little activity I need to keep a record of. Gaps. And come away from the door. Boys, no gaps. Okay, you ready? Doing? Okay. Right, this little activity is a simple activity called Zoom. Now, you can call it anything you like, but I'm just familiar with it being called Zoom. And the way this little activity works, it is to ideally help you with your multiples. So the area of mathematics that this would be best benefiting you is any area that involves simple multiplication for a start. And secondly, when you're doing some work with fractions and you need to do things with lowest common multiples and that sort of thing, that's the other place. So where there are multiples involved. Now I do put a little challenge into it, a little bit of a twist. And so we're going to play 2 quick rounds. But the first round, we're going to be dealing with multiples of 7 and any number that contains a 7. Now we will go around the group numerically. All you need to do is just counting, but if it reaches you and your number that you're meant to say is either a multiple of 7 or simply contains a 7, instead of saying the number, you say Zoom. And then immediately the next person continues on. All right, so I'm giving you a nice easy one first up. Okay, so any questions? Yeah.
I didn't understand the last part about the multiples and 7 and 3.
Right. So for example, the multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, 28, 35 and so on. But you also have numbers that just contain a 7 that may not be a multiple. Now 7 is, but 17, 27, 37, 47, 57, so on. Now don't forget, if your number is either a 7 or a multiple of 7, contains a 7 or is a multiple of 7, you don't say the number, you say Zoom, and then we move on to the next person. If you get it wrong, you sit down. And then we continue on. If you pause too long, you are also out of the game, and there is no talking apart from the person saying the number. Okay, ready to go?